What's up guys, it's your boy Wolf and we are here back on YouTube with some 7DS Origins. Today I'm talking about how to get 30k plus team power as a free to play. I started this game on Tuesday of the early access week. I think it was like day 2. Yeah, I think it was day 2 because I got Gila and this in one go. So I started on day 2, so I've had a whole week now on this game. Today was day 7 of my account. In 1 week, I've managed to go completely free to play. I'll show you, I haven't bought any of the bundles, not even the £1 SSR weapon bundle. I haven't bought any of these, and I've managed to get my team up to 32, based just under 32,500 team combat class, combat power, whatever you want to call it. I'm used to calling it CC combat class from Grand Cross. And I want to talk about everything that I did to get to that point. Hopefully, these things should help you if you're starting the game now, if you're thinking about starting it, or you started it before but you're struggling to make that push for that power. Hopefully, some of the things that I did will help you. You might notice some things that you probably didn't do or didn't do correctly, and you'll be able to make those adjustments and get stronger and push further into the game. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about some of the more generic things that you see in a lot of other videos like reroll. Reroll, I'm just going to very briefly say I did reroll. I got lucky. I got Deanne on my second reroll. So as soon as I got Deanne, from what I knew of the game, from what everyone was saying from CBT, off the standard banner, if we look at the standard banner, which is where you get the majority of your pulls on reroll, off here, Jericho and Deanne are your two best picks. If you get one of them during rerolls, then that's what you want to keep. That's the account you want to get going with. I got Deanne on my second reroll. I stuck with it. I've had a great start to the game, and as long as you're able to get one of those, if you are rerolling, then you'll have a great start. It's not necessary. You do get Gila for free. The fire free-to-play fire team with Gila, Tiora, and Tristan is pretty good and it can take you all the way to end game. Maybe not as quickly or as reliably as some of the others, but they will get you there still. Although I will make a mention that now that the grand launch has happened and the game is officially out on mobile, if you are going to reroll, it is much easier doing it on a mobile device because the mobile device now has a guest login, which wasn't available when we were doing rerolls on Steam or PS5 with the early access. Which means that now you don't need to make a bunch of emails and then try and do the whole linking and unlinking. You can just keep doing your guest login, get rid of the account, keep doing it over and over and reroll. So if you're someone who does want to reroll for Deanne and Jericho, do it on your mobile device with the guest login. It will be a better start if that's something you want to do. Enough of that though, and let's get into the main points. The first thing I did that I really focused on in the early days of the game was, as basic, as generic as it sounds, the story. Now, you'll see here, no quests in progress. I don't know why I'm showing you that, but I guess I'm kind of making a point. But if we look at the progress on my map, you'll see that every single zone I've completed, every single quest that is available in the game right now. Pushing the story is so important for so many reasons. It gives you currency for pulls. It unlocks forces you to go to different zones and helps you unlock content, open up the map. And opening up the map is going to contribute in so many ways to your account because you're going to grab warp points, which give you XP for your Book of Stars. You're going to mark nodes that you're going to need to farm for things like platinum ore, gold ore, some of these important plants on the map. And it's going to contribute in a ton of way in terms of XP, currency for pulls, unlocking content. Some of these bosses, you won't find them until you've opened up that zone or until you've finished the act of the story, the chapter of the story that happens within that zone. So make sure that you're pushing your story. Craft. That I cannot state enough how important this is. Make sure throughout the game, from day one throughout, you are constantly crafting, even if it's just basic things like your simple HP recovery potions. Make sure that you're picking up these dandelion roots and all these other materials that you find lying about. Make sure you're crafting. When you start the game, your workbench will be level 1. You need to craft items to level it up to level 5, and you need to get the next level to unlock the next tier of the workbench. And the reason why this is so important is because you want to get to the max level as quickly as possible, so that you can start prepping to craft your weapons as quickly as possible. Because your end game weapon is going to be the SSR crafted weapons. I've just crafted my SSR dual swords for Meliodas today. If we go to my Meliodas, you'll see that he has SSR dual swords, and I made this just today. I got an enchantment on it. It is so important to make sure that you are doing your crafting, leveling up your workbench, leveling up your crafting level, so that you can get ready to craft these weapons. And this ties back into opening up the map. Make sure that as you travel around the map and grab those warp points, you're also picking up any ore nodes like iron, silver, especially gold and platinum. You want to be finding and marking the nodes for gold and platinum, because those are going to be your major endgame bottlenecks when it comes to crafting gear. And you're going to need a ton of platinum when it comes to crafting your weapon. Your SSR weapon is going to take 16 platinum ingots. Your SR version, which you have to craft first, is going to take 12 gold ingots. I was lucky enough that when you start the game early on, I think it was from the special codex. Yeah, in the special codex, as you unlock things, you get these rewards. And at level 30, the first reward is an SR crafted weapon chance chest. And from this chest, I was lucky enough to get the SR crafted versions of the dual swords, which meant that I was able to actually skip the process of having to craft the SR version. I was able to go straight to the SSR version, which probably did help me get there a bit faster. But in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't have made the biggest of difference. It probably just saved me an extra day's worth of keys at best, if anything, especially now that they've reduced how many materials you need to craft those weapons. But in a nutshell, make sure that you are crafting, make sure you're upgrading your workbench, opening up your map and marking those gathering nodes, because you need to be pre-farming as early as day one if you can, to make sure that when you get to the point where you're ready to craft your weapon, you have all the materials ready for it to go. You want to farm your materials as you play through the story, as you run around the map, farm everything you can as you're going. Keep crafting other things in the meantime to level up your workbench, so that when your workbench gets to level 5, gets to the max level, as soon as you might not have all the materials straight away, because there are a few bosses and things that you need to farm, some other end game materials that you'll need to farm. But you want to be more or less halfway there, cut down a bit of the time that you'll need to craft those weapons. Another thing that I did was I focused a lot on grabbing all the easy currency I could for pulls. A lot of people sometimes prefer to hoard their currency and do big pulls, um, or they like to hoard their pulls because they're thinking, well, I don't really want any of these units. Let me tell you right now, Meliodas is by far the best unit in the game at the moment. If I was to put a tier list, I mean, there's a bunch of tier lists out there. Shout out to Seaton. He did a good tier list very recently um, for the grand launch of this game. And I think I pretty much completely agree with everything that he's got on his tier list. Meliodas is an SS tier unit. And then below that, as your two S tier units, you've got Jericho and Deanne. Meliodas is the best unit in the game. He doesn't need much of a team. He doesn't need specific pairings or anything. Because of the way Darkness Burst works, he can fit onto any team. So as long as you've got someone that can activate any other elemental burst really quickly, the Meliodas will fit fine there. And they don't even need to do damage, they just need to burst. And then he can jump in, he can activate his Darkness Burst, and he will just delete things off the map. So you want to pull for him. And you can't see it on my screen right now because I've already done it. But when you start the game, there will be a box here that says 120 guaranteed. The way this works is, as you do your pulls, you'll have your normal 50-50 at 80, your 50-50 pity at 80, so you'll have a 50% chance of getting him. If you get it the first time, great. If you fail it, then you'll get him guaranteed at your next 80. But you also get a guaranteed at 120 that is completely exclusive from your 80 pity over here. So if you fail the pity at 80 and you're guaranteed the Meliodas at 160, even if you get that guaranteed Meliodas at 120, you will still get your guaranteed Meli at 160. So don't worry about failing the pity and then getting the 120 and then not being able to get your 161. It's an extra free copy essentially at 120 pulls. So I would recommend going at least to 120 pulls, but by the time you get to 120, you're halfway to the next pity anyway. So I would go to the next pity go to 160 pulls. It's very easy to get the currency to do it and pull for Meliodas because he is going to be a huge help to your game. Do anytime that you get a multi for this banner, do it because you will always have a chance of getting something good, something new, something that might be beneficial to your team or to your gameplay. I started off with just Diane and the free Gila, but as I progressed and as I did my pulls, I eventually got Manny. My first pity on the regular banner was a Diane dupe, but then I managed to get Manny within like 2 multis after that, luckily. And then I got Meliodas, and for ages I was running them. And then just a couple of days ago, I got King as well. And now this is my team fleshed out. I've got Diane as my burster. She's activating Earth Burst with her gauntlets. She does that really fast. Gauntlet Diane is really nice. King supports her. And then I've got Manny to support both Diane and Meliodas with the Holy Spec. She drops in little circular area that buffs our crit damage. And then obviously Meliodas is my main DPS with just under 15k attack there so far. I've managed to do a lot on him as well, in terms of crafting his weapon, enchanting his weapon. I've managed to craft his exclusive equipment as well, but we'll get to that in a second. But grab all the currency that you can and do some pulls early game because you will get good units and those units will help you to progress through the game, fight some of the bosses. So I would really recommend don't just hoard, especially your star fragments. Don't skip the Meliodas banner. I would really strongly stress, unless before the end of the banner, when this Meliodas banner lasts for 3 weeks from the day that you log in, unless before the banner ends we get information of someone who might be even better than Meliodas, which is unlikely because usually in 7DS games, the 2 units that are always OP and that shouldn't be skipped are Meliodas and Escanor. So, but unless some miracle happens and the next unit is better than Meliodas and you want to save for that, I would recommend pulling for Meliodas. Where do you get all this easy currency? I kind of rambled on about whether you should pull for Meliodas, whether you should pull or not, but we want to talk about where do you get this easy currency? Well, one of the first places is the special codex. And we're not going to talk about all of these end parts, but we're just going to focus on the 100 mark. The 100 mark is going to be very easy and quick to get to because once you do your rerolls, you're going to have a certain amount of heroes unlocked because a large majority of these will be SR. You're going to have a bunch of weapons unlocked from your pulls. You're also going to find a bunch of weapons from the weapon shops in each zone, as well as you'll find a bunch of them lying around the place. You want to be picking all of those up. You also want to be crafting your capture potions, because not only is that going to contribute to your crafting level and help you boost that crafting level, upgrade your workbench, but it's also going to help you capture pets, capture mounts that contribute to your special codex that level this up to get you as close as possible to eventually hit that 100 mark and get these 1000 free star fragments. I pushed that really hard early on. I crafted a bunch of capture potions. I tried to catch as many pets as I could. You'll see I've got almost half of all the pets and mounts that you can get. So I captured even ones that I wasn't planning to use at all, but I captured a bunch of them. Hawk you get kind of for free through the story, but the rest of these, this one you get from the tutorial of actually capturing. The rest of these you'll have to go and capture yourself. These 2 are rewards. But like these 3, the seagull, the bat, the bird, obviously the dragon as well, and then all of these little pets. I think the only one I didn't catch here was this little bat, which you get at the start of the game, and this thing, which is a reward. The rest of these you catch yourself. I made sure to craft my capture potions and capture as many of these as possible because that is the easiest, quickest source alongside weapons of getting your special codex up to 100, getting those free star fragments. The next place that's really nice and easy to get star fragments is your achievements. Getting to 20 is super, super easy. You can probably do that by day 2 of the game. You can get to 20, grab those 500. By day 4, day 5, you'll get to 40. You'll get the other 500 as well. So you'll get another early 1000 for free over there. That's another third of a multi. So now you're 2/3 of a multi there. Another place that I don't see mentioned a lot in videos, and I don't know if it's people are overlooking it, they haven't realized or what, but you want to make sure that you do these battle training ground tutorials as well. Because while, yeah, you might know a lot of the content, you might know how these work, just do it because it might show you something new. You might not know it, you might know it, but it might improve your understanding of it. But the main point is by the time when you finish it, you get star fragments. And that's why we're doing these. We're doing these because we want to collect all these star fragment rewards. As a free to play, we want to take all the advantages we can get, which means that no matter how silly it seems, if it gives us star fragments, we're going to do it. No matter what the content is, no matter how easy or difficult it is, no matter how silly it is, if it gives us star fragments, we're going to do it. That is our ethos as a free to play. So make sure that you go and you do your battle trials over here. You pick up these free star fragments. The other place that you're going to go for star fragments is these two, the Path of Hero and the Path of Exploration. Now, these won't happen as quickly as the others in the early game because obviously the Path of Exploration might be a bit easier, but it still requires you to open up your map, progress through the zones a bit, level up your workbench, do a lot of crafting, collecting a lot of materials. As you can see, at level 10 requires you to collect 10 corrupted ancient dragon scales. Well, this is, you're only going to get this by the time you get to the very last chapter, Act 12, in the very last zone. So it will take a bit of time over the course of a few days, but depending on how much time you invest in the game, you can grind and get to the end of the story within somewhere between 2 and 4 days, depending on your commitment level, how much time you have. But you will get a total of, was it 3 times 10? So that's 30. You'll get 3 multis. By the time you finish this Path of Exploration, you'll get 3 multis on the regular banner here. You'll also get 3 multis from the Path of Hero. This one will be a bit slower than your Path of Exploration because this specifically is tied to your character and team progression. It requires you to push a lot of content, use your keys, clear your boss challenges, upgrade your weapons, upgrade your units, upgrade your team combat class. So this will be slower, but you will get there eventually, and these will add up. So you want to make sure that you're doing those. You want to make sure that you're doing your daily missions every day because you are still getting 120 star fragments from here every day as well. I also want to make a quick mention on the daily missions. I would recommend not just stopping at 4. Don't just do a random 4 and stop. All of these that give you materials, I would do all of them, even if you've already done your 4 for the day, because as a free to play, we are not spending our resources, our star fragments, or money on getting more keys, which means that anytime that you have a way of getting these monster materials without spending keys, you want to take it because the only other way to get these materials is by using your keys, which are capped and only recharge daily, and you only have a certain amount. So this is a great way to hoard some of these materials or get some of these materials for free early on. So make sure that you're doing all of these. The next place that you're going to get a bunch of star fragments is your boss challenges. Early on, you'll unlock these as you progress through the zones. The lower difficulties are very easy to do, to be honest, and have very low requirements. 3000 combat class. Over here, 3000 combat class. This one was 6000. You want to make sure that you're doing these because the first time rewards, as you can see, is 300. Easy, 300 star fragments. That's a single. These will add up with everything else that you're getting. So you want to make sure that you're progressing through the story, unlocking the content, because unlocking the content, unlocking the zones, unlocking the story will give you access to this kind of content, which gives you all these materials, all these star fragments. And then the final place where you are going to obviously get a lot of your star fragments is your Book of Stars. And this is going to happen passively just by virtue of playing the game. As you progress, you're going to level up. Every time you collect a warp point, when you collect star fragments off the map, when you complete quests, you're going to get XP from all kinds of sources. And every time you level up, you're going to get star fragments. You're going to get 100 per level. Now, up to level 30, at the multiples of 5, you are going to get 5 regular banner pulls, which is still pretty good, especially in the early game. You really do want that because you do want to be able to push to pity on the 2 different banners at the same time if you can, because it's double the chance of getting an SSR unit. So here, obviously at 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and then 30, you're going to get 5. So that's 3 multis over there as well, for the regular banner. And getting to 30 is very, very quick. The only thing that's going to maybe potentially be an obstacle for you is how good your team is for clearing these Book of Stars dungeons, because these are the dungeons that correspond. These are the dungeons that correspond to your world level, and even if you level beyond this dungeon, say you get to 15, you don't complete the dungeon, you hit 16, 17, 18, you won't be able to collect these rewards until you've completed this dungeon. So you might struggle there a bit, but you will get there eventually. It took me a couple of tries to get Twiggo, but if you just keep playing through the story, keep grabbing your materials, do a little bit of extra grinding on the side, you'll be able to get strong enough to eventually come back and tackle it. So make sure that you, like I said, open up your map, push your story, grab all the XP, all the currency you can from all the sources. Leveling up your Book of Stars is going to give you a bunch of free star fragments. And you want to use all of that as much as you can as a free to play on these banners. Do not ever use your star fragments on the regular banner. The game early on does give you more than enough regular banner pulls to use on this banner to go up to pity. It gives you enough to go. I'm pretty sure it gives you enough with all the rewards to go up to 160 pulls on this banner, or somewhere nearabouts, because I'm pretty sure I went to pity twice on this regular banner and I didn't spend any star fragments on here. You want to only be using your star fragments on the Meliodas banner. I went to 160. I was going to stop there, and then I realized, well, with the amount of Meliodas copies I had gotten in my 160 pulls, I got 3 copies. If I include the guaranteed 120, I got 3 copies in my 160 pulls on this banner. Add so if you add the base copy, so then I got 2 dupes. 2 dupes plus the 4 potentials you get from your masteries. I decided I want to get 1 more copy if I can, because I want to unlock that potential 7. Potential 7 is the second potential that gives you a bonus effect for your skills, but that's a side point. I'm rambling. But you want to make sure you're using your star fragments, collecting all of those currencies, using them on the Meliodas banner, using all the regular banner pulls on this regular banner every time you have enough for a multi. Get those units, make your team stronger. The next thing I did was I focused on one unit. Only invest in one unit at a time. When I started the game, I focused on Diane. She was the only unit that I put any amount of investment into. I only invested in her masteries. I kind of messed up a bit with her because I went based off advice from people that play the CBT who said that the nunchuck build was best. But it seems that from the CBT to the global version, live version now, they've kind of changed the nunchuck from a DPS build to more of a support healer build. So eventually I had to pivot into the gauntlets. So I did kind of waste some materials doing this early on, and I had to like balance it out, but it wasn't too bad. And despite everything, within a week, I still managed to get everything done. I still managed to get this up to scratch. And by the time it really became a, by the time it, I really noticed that it was becoming a problem. I already got melee, and which is at which point I pivoted into pouring all of my resources into melee. At that point, I stopped investing in Diane. I invested in Diane because she was my reroll unit. She was my best unit at the time. I only had her, Gila, and then a bunch of SR characters. But once I got Melee, I knew that Melee was going to be my main DPS. He was going to be my main carry. He was going to pull the largest amount of weight on my team. So I took all the best gear off Diane and I put it on my Meliodas. I stopped doing Diane's masteries. I paused on all her masteries and I focused completely on doing Meliodas's masteries instead. You can see I've completely maxed out and mastered his dual swords tree, so I've got a free potential point from that. So my Meliodas is now at 4 out of 10. Once I get these two, he'll be at 6 out of 10. And that's why I explained I'm going to the next pity on the banner, hopefully to pull another Meliodas copy so I can get this 7 out of 10, which is where I will most likely stop on Meliodas. But I focused everything on my Meliodas once I got him. And I mean, if we just go back to the team screen, you can see the difference. These two are like under 3,300, 2,900. Deanne's got a bit of investment because I had some overflow resources that I managed to pour into her, and she had some investment early on, so she's at 7,000. But Meliodas is at 14, almost 15,000. So he's like double of what Deanne is, and a lot more than what King and Manny is, like 5 times, almost 5 times what they are. So there's a big difference in my investment between King, Manny, Diane, and Meliodas. But it doesn't matter, it works. Because King and Manny are supportive units. Diane's only job is to do her Earthburst. Meliodas is my main carry. He's the only one that needs any investment because he's the only one that's expected to do any damage. So with how much the resources, with how much it costs to upgrade your units in terms of your masteries, in terms of your weapon enhancement, you will really be punishing yourself if you try and upgrade more than one unit at the same time. You'll be spreading your resources thin, you'll be slowing your progress down, and you'll be keeping your team at a much weaker state. So make sure you only invest in one unit at a time. And if you hit a wall eventually, don't suddenly feel like you need to start when if you hit a wall when you're doing the story, you hit a boss and you're like, oh, I'm struggling to do this boss. That doesn't mean start investing in your other units. It means the unit that I'm investing in just isn't strong enough for this content yet, so I need to make them stronger. Do some early grinding when you hit a wall, which was the next point I was going to go into. When you hit the wall in the content, don't waste time trying to brute force if you're stuck in the story. When I was playing through the story, I kind of hit a wall. The first major wall I hit was when I got to Gila. Gila was incredibly difficult for me the first time around. But what did I do? I didn't brute force it because I realized that actually the more I try this, the more I'm getting frustrated and the more I'm just kind of wasting time. So I took a step back. I went through and I explored a bunch of the zones I hadn't explored before. I used my keys. I grinded a lot of materials. I farmed up my Meliodas' masteries. I looked for other sources where I could make him stronger. So I thought, okay, well, he needs more attack. So I started upgrading his other master trees, making sure that I collected all the attack stats that apply to all his weapons from the other trees as well. Because if you didn't know, while you do need to max out the mastery trees on your main weapon, these subnodes, these little ones that come off the 1, 2, 3, 4, those only apply, those only take effect if you're actually equipping that weapon. So on here, these subnodes right now, these aren't doing anything for me because I'm not equipping the axe. But these major nodes, 1, 2, 3, 4, the attack stats and defense HP, all these stats that you get from these apply even when I'm wearing these dual swords. So you can get a bunch of stats from here as well from these trees by upgrading these main nodes. So I went round, I farmed, I used my keys, I farmed for a bunch of mastery materials to upgrade these. I farmed for mastery materials to upgrade the sub nodes on my dual swords tree. I tried to get some better armor, I tried to refine my armor. I upgraded and enhanced my weapon a bit. I took my weapon up to plus 10, up to plus 20 if I needed to, because even the ones that I'm not using, because if you didn't notice, weapons not in use provide 30% of their attack. So it's also another free source of attack stat. I did all of these things and I focused still only on Meli, only thinking about how can I make Meliodas strong? Not the whole team, just Meliodas. How can I make him strong enough to kill Gila? And that's what I focused on. Because you only need one unit to really be strong enough to carry you through the story to get to the end game. And once you get to the end game, you want to focus on finishing up that unit, making them strong enough to clear all the content, at which point you can then start to focus on the rest of your units and fleshing out the rest of your team. So if you hit a wall, don't brute force it, don't smack your head on your keyboard and waste time. It's not efficient. Take a step back, do some early grinding, come back stronger. Make small upgrades where you can, when you can, and but only if you need to. Like I said, I needed attack stat, so I looked for all the sources of attack stat, but I didn't do them all straight away. I made a few of them. I did all the mastery stuff because I'm going to need to do that eventually. Then I tried it out. If I felt like, oh, I'm lacking a bit more attack, I thought, okay, let me push my attack just a tiny bit more. So then I pushed these weapons up to just plus 10, just plus 10 here first. I thought, okay, maybe a tiny bit more. So I took it up to 20 and I finished it off. I could have, if I wanted to, push these even further. I could have made all my weapons 30 or 40, 30, 30 or something. But then I would have wasted materials. I would have wasted materials that I would have needed when I eventually made these dual swords. Like you can see now, I crafted these today. I still don't have enough materials or resources. I think the main thing I was lacking kind of to level these up to 50 was gold. I'm limited by gold at the moment, which is why I can't take them to 50. So don't waste your materials pouring everything. Do it in small increments so that you're not wasting stuff and using excess, because you might find that you don't need the full amount to be strong enough to clear the content, and then that amount that you saved could probably be used at a later time in a different place. Another major thing, which is kind of obvious but still needs to be said, is to use your keys every day. Make sure you're using your keys every day because you are slowing your progress, you are hurting your account if you do not use your keys, because all the major materials, all the major resources you need that are going to contribute to increasing your team strength and your character strength comes from content that requires keys, which is your boss challenges and your dungeons. So early on, I mean, you kind of don't want to touch the gold dungeon. Maybe you can do it once or twice if you're desperate for the gold or you want the first time rewards. Same with the mastery growth. Maybe do it for the first time rewards, but otherwise they're not worth the value. Furs and mines, not really great. I did it once just for the first time rewards. I haven't even done the deep spider yet. It's not a bad one to do. I just haven't needed to go in here for the gear yet, so I didn't touch it. I was kind of just farming Gila because I wanted the Star Guardian gear to craft my engraved equipment. But make sure you're using your keys, farm these because you're getting a bunch of materials that you'll need. You're getting mastery XP. If you look over here, you're getting your mastery XP. You're getting magic beads, which is what you use for enchanting. You're getting gold. You're getting these tier up stones to enhance your weapons. You're getting gear. And you're getting blueprint fragments or full blueprints if you're lucky to help you with crafting your weapons. You're getting a bunch of resources all within the cost of, well, 10 keys at hard and nightmare difficulty, and then 20 keys at hell. I haven't attempted hell yet, but I probably will now that I'm close enough. I will probably make an attempt on it tomorrow. Um, but you want to make sure that you're using your keys. You can see I have 50 right now. When you start, you'll start with 30. As you progress your book of stars, every time you get to, I think it's every 10th level, I believe. Yeah, every 10 levels, your book of stars is going to increase your cap of keys by 5 up to a max of 50 at 40. As it stands in the game, from my understanding, I don't think, because I'm kind of close to clearing everything off the map. I mean, I've completed every quest in the game. I've farmed a large majority of the star fragments that you can get. I've finished the fragments in some of these zones as well. So, and the fragments only give you 150 XP, and I am sitting at 41. And is there where? Yeah, I'm sitting at 41, and this is how much of my bar is filled. So my understanding is 41 is probably the highest you can get in the game at the moment, because my understanding was in Wuwa and Genshin Impact, your key, the equivalent of your keys, I can't remember what it was called in those games, but the equivalent of what your keys were, they used to get XP for clearing that content as well. That is not the case in this game. You don't get XP um, proportional to your key usage. So most of your XP is coming from your quests, your exploration from picking up warp points, and from finding your star fragments around the map. But you want to still make sure that you're using up your cube keys every day. You will get um, from the rewards and the, I don't know if people who are logging in brand new in the grand launch will get the mail that has the compensation keys, but you will in the shop be able to go here to the growth page and get one free bundle of 20 keys, I believe it is, every day. So you want to make sure you're grabbing those as well. You'll have a total of, well, 50 keys when you start your account, and eventually you'll be able to have a max of 70 keys to use, sorry, every day. You want to make sure that you're using those and you're using those in the most efficient way possible. If you want to know what the best usage of your keys is, let me know in the comments below. I will do a video on that. There is some content already around the place that I've seen, but if you want an explanation on that, what is the best dungeon to farm, what is the best usage for your keys, I can do a video on that as well. So just let me know down in the comments below. Things that, the other smaller niche things that kind of helped me as well. I mean, I could talk about some of the generic things like build your team smart, but I mean, that kind of goes without saying. Make sure you're building your team smart, especially if you're playing around with melee. If you play with Meliodas, make sure that you pair him with someone that can trigger their elemental burst really quickly. Because the way Darkness Burst works is you have to trigger a different elemental burst. Let's find a boss somewhere where we can kind of showcase this so you understand what I'm talking about. We'll go to the red demon real quick. The way Darkness Burst works is you have to trigger another elemental burst. And then once that elemental burst has been activated, you switch into Meliodas and attack. He will corrupt that elemental burst and turn it into a darkness burst. And then he will do all his, and then his damage will be increased. His darkness damage gets increased. I think their darkness resistance or something gets lowered depending on. I don't know if that's just a normal effect. I can't remember if that's a normal effect or if that's specific to his dual swords build. But essentially, that's what you want to do. You want to activate the elemental burst with a different character, switch into Meliodas, activate his darkness burst, and then do damage. So what you're focusing on as a support, as a partner for Meliodas, is you want to make sure that whoever he's paired with is someone that can activate the burst really quickly. So, for example, um, let's go on to. I'm going to go to you, activate my little crit damage circle. Whoops. And you'll see that Diane with gauntlets is actually really good for doing this. She fills in the burst spell really quickly for Earth. And then you switch into melee. There, you corrupt it. And then you just pump out his damage. And he will do all the damage for you. You do not need to worry about switching into your other units, using your other units. The only time you need to worry about anything is if you need healing, or for whatever reason you didn't manage to kill it in a full cycle, then you might need to switch into another unit. Yeah. There we go. And now the red demon's dead. That wasn't the cleanest kill, but you kind of get the point. I activate my burst with Diane. Gauntlet. If you're using Diane, gauntlets are your fastest, most reliable way to activate your Earth Burst. The other best unit for this is Jericho with the dual swords build. She is really good and quick with activating the Ice Burst with her dual swords build. Those are the two units you kind of want to pair with Meliodas if you can. If you're completely free to play, you don't have Diane or Jericho, then the other option that you can use as well for this is Tristan. If we go to hero info, if we go to Tristan, his dual swords build as well, his E increases the burst gauge by 200 if the enemy's fire resistance is decreased, and his Q decreases their fire resistance. So you bring in Tristan, you Q, then you E, and he is also really good at quickly activating the fire burst. So if you're completely free to play, you're pairing melee with the free to play fire team like Gila, Tristan, Tiore, then Tristan is going to be the person that you're focusing on for activating your fire burst. And then Gila is going to be supplementing that damage. And then you're switching into Meliodas. If you're using the Earth team, you're doing something like I am, then you're using Gauntlet Diane. And if you're using Jericho, you're using her dual blades. But you want to be making sure that you're building your team smartly. So I've got Diane and melee. I'm not going to play Manny on an ice spec because it makes no point. There's no point to it here. So I've got Manny on her holy spec. That's going to buff my Diane. It's also going to buff my Meliodas because she's providing magic charging efficiency as well as crit damage. She's also going to be doing a little bit of damage with this build. And if I choose to use her ult, she also decreases their elemental resistance. I'm using King with his Earth build. To be honest, in this team, I could kind of use King on either of these two specs. This is more of a main damage spec, the light spec. This is a good support spec, which kind of helps Meliodas as well. But I've switched. I started off with this one, but recently I've kind of changed to using this because this is really nice for regenerating my Earth, regenerating my magic points, which is my ult gauge. Because I find that a lot of the time, I kind of want to save my ult gauge for Meliodas, and I don't generate it as fast as I'd like to, so I kind of avoid using ult on anyone else. But with Earth Spec King, I can kind of afford to use my ult on someone else if I need to, because he will help me regenerate that really quickly. If you're using Jericho instead of Diane, then you'll want to maybe use Manny with her dual swords ice spec. That's going to be really good. Obviously, like I mentioned before, with the free-to-play fire team, if you're using Tristan to generate fire burst, you want to pair that with Gila with her lance build, or because she's not going to be your main DPS, since you're using Tristan for burst and melee for your main DPS, you could also use Gila on her sword and shield, because this build is also going to give you a barrier, so it's going to help you in terms of protection. And then you want to use Tiore with her wand, which is going to be her fire healing spec. So make sure that you build your team smart. everything that I've said so far, all the tips, making your team stronger, making your account better, all of it is irrelevant if you build your team poorly, if you're not smart about what team you use, what units you use, and who you invest in. And then let's just go on to some of the smaller niche things that I don't see people talk about a lot, like food buffs. Use your food. When you hit a wall, sometimes in the content, like I mentioned before, where I struggled with the Gila boss during the story, sometimes just using some food, getting one of these buffs, could make a world of difference. Getting an extra 12% attack to get that extra bit of damage out, or getting um let's see, where's my defense food? Getting 10%, or this one is 15% defense so that I can survive just that extra bit, or getting burst efficiency so I can activate that burst faster. Sometimes these buffs from the food, as along with the healing that they provide, could make all the difference that you need rather than having to go and spend time grinding or anything. So make sure that you make use of your food buffs. They are very underrated but very useful, and I did make good use of these. Also, make use of your potions. You'll be crafting a lot of these just to level up your crafting level and upgrade your workbench anyway. So make use of them because you will find that they will help you a lot. I use so many supreme HP recovery potions because they help you survive, they help you walk away from the boss, just run around in circles waiting for your potion to come on cooldown, trying to survive while you watch the mechanics. You can figure out what the mechanics are, you can figure out where they're going, what the timing is, and you can survive and stay alive long enough to eventually kill the boss and get past that content. So make sure that you're making use of these things. Once you craft them, if you go down here, you can click on select and you can put it into one of your quick slots. As a final point, guys, make sure you're having fun. None of the above, none of the points, the tips that I gave you, none of anything that I said so far matters if you're not having fun. I kind of did all of these things because I got lost in the game. I was enjoying myself a lot. I spent a lot of time. Um, I will have something up on the screen to show, but at this point in the game, it's been like 7 days on my account, and I've got just over 100 hours played in the game. I was enjoying myself a lot. I kind of lost myself in the game, and I managed to do all of these things. Only do it if you're having fun. If you're not, do as much or as little as you feel like, or just don't do any of it at all and play it differently because ultimately it's a game and you want to have fun. But these are all the things that I just want to let you know you can do, especially as a free to play, because as a free to play, we want to take all the advantages we can. This is how I managed to get over 30k power completely free to play, crafted all my weapons, my engraved equipment on Meliodas within 7 days. And that's it. So thank you very much, guys. Hope this helped. If it did, let me know. If it didn't, let me know why. Drop a like, subscribe, drop a comment down below, and I will be back with more content in the future. Thank you.